Hey guys, I'm back in the studio today, and today it's just me in the studio, and I'm going to be sharing with you part 2 of our drawing from last time, drawing the owl. We want to focus today on developing value in this little drawing. So I'm going to be sharing with you how I add shading to a drawing, and I just wanted to share briefly what tools I'm going to be using today. I'm going to be using 3 different pencils. One is a Faber-Castell F, which is a hard pencil for light areas, and then the kind of mid-tone pencil is a 4B. And then for our really darks, and this is one of my favorite pencils for using developing deep values in a drawing, is the ebony pencil. Right here, Prismacolor ebony pencil. These are great tools for drawing. So let's get started. So in this video, I'm going to focus mainly on the face of this owl and developing value in there. And one of the things that I've already done is erased, in preparation to getting the values, erased some of your preliminary lines in here when we had drawn the circle for the eyes and the axis line for the face. You want to come in, and I'm using a kneaded eraser to come in and erase some of those preliminary lines that won't play into the final drawing. It kind of cleaned it up a little bit, and I had already erased some of these circle lines in the face, and that prepares the drawing for developing your values. Adjust your drawing when you see that it needs to be adjusted. And there are different methods and techniques for shading. I'm not going to talk a lot about the different methods. In some of this, I'm doing some cross-hatching here. But when you start out with a hard pencil, you want to be careful not to press down into the paper too hard, because it'll leave indentions in the paper that are hard to get out later. So I'm using it lightly to get some of these tones of the feathers and patterns here around this eye, developing it lightly. And one of the things I might start out to give a reference point for your values is come in and find the darkest dark, which of course in this owl would be the eye. And to achieve that, you'd have to use your ebony pencil. So I'm going to come in here to set a real dark so that I can judge the rest of the values according to that dark. And again, I'm not starting out by pressing down real hard yet, because it'll leave dents in the paper that will show up later. So gently start to develop, and see I'm turning the pencil different directions to shade it in the shadow on the top of the eye, and how it pulls over in here. And as you develop those values, you start to see the shape come together a little more. I'm leaving that highlight pretty light right now. I don't want to lose the white of the paper there too quickly. But you can see how this ebony pencil shows up much darker in this drawing. So that's just to get that started, and then I might come over again to my 4B, which is kind of midway in here, to get some of these darker feathers that are around the eye, but it's not as black as that ebony pencil. And these are subtle changes that I'm developing as I'm going. I'm looking for the shapes of the feathers here. And one trick that you'll want to develop in discovering values is to squint with your eyes. You squint down with your eyes, and you can begin to see the value relationships. And when I say value, it's lightness and darkness. So when I squint down, I'm seeing my darkest darks are here, and some of my lightest lights in this face is right here, this highlight in this shape here on the side. And so we're going to be developing those main shapes as we draw. And so you want to leave that highlight right here as the white of the paper. You don't want to draw into that yet. You want to leave it white. But when you squint, you can see the value relationships best. Now I'm going to be continuing to develop the value of the eyes, laying in the blacks with the ebony pencil. And then when we shift to the feathers, we're going to be using the 4B pencil to lay in those darks and the shadows around the eyes, noticing that it's not as dark as the eyes themselves. And remember that the right side of the owl's face, even though some of the feathers appear white, is actually in the shadow, so we will lightly shade that using the F pencil and correct any lines underneath that need to be erased, and you can lay in values right over them. I focus on just developing some of the values around this beak. I'm going to use my 4B. So remember, it's not as black as the eye, but it is quite a bit darker right around here. So I'm going to lay in some of those feather shapes around that beak to make it begin to stand out. See right in here, the feathers excuse me, are overlapping. Bring some of that dark tone down into here. It always amazes me when you start to see it come to life and have form and depth to it. So every time that you develop one area, it shows you what you need to do in other areas. So I come in here and erase some of these initial lines, which were to get the structure, but maybe aren't necessarily as accurate. And then I'm able to shade these areas without lines competing underneath it. But you may like those lines to stay there with your style. So I may come in here where we had smeared to pull that highlight in here over top of the eye. I'm going to develop a little bit of these feathers around here to give contrast to the face. And I'm using a quicker sketch in value here. I even use my finger to smear, and you can see how that softens it. And always remember to, as you're drawing, to stop for a minute and squint, look at your drawing, and look at your subject and compare the values. And you'll see areas that stick out as too bright or maybe too dark. And when I squint, I also see this area needs to kind of come up a little bit and be darker. So fix this shape here, how this kind of comes down and over here. And you can slowly develop more and more detail. And also, as you look at it, I can see that I could pull this highlight in the face up higher over here. Comes out a little further and wider. So you can see that there's a push and pull in the drawing, and that's what I enjoy about it. You don't have to get it exact the first time, but it's the whole process of seeing and developing your scene or your subject. To bring form and value. And you can come back to the areas that you smeared and maybe want to add a little more definition and texture to it. I'm going to fix this line here. And let your lines have a character of their own, where you push down and then let up. You can push down. There's amazing qualities you can get simply from your lines, which give your drawing form and depth. You can lighten it and press down. Now I'm going to squint again and look at my drawing and compare. And I can see even up here where it got a little bit too dark. So I'm going to pull this out and reshade that with a little bit lighter touch. Just like that. And this gives you an idea of my process for seeing and developing values. These are great lessons for seeing as you learn to paint as well. I'm going to adjust one more thing in this drawing, and that is correct this beak, which comes over further this way. There we go. Well, that's going to be it for today. Thank you for joining me. It's been real fun to be here in the studio with you. And just stay tuned for our next drawing instruction. Really looking forward to getting Aiden back in the studio with us again. And we're going to have fun. Thank you.